Nathan Eovaldi signed with the Rangers, and they've been really interesting because they're just signing pitchers all over the place. DeGrom was the big one if he can stay healthy. But I'm not sure. I'm just not sure what to expect from some of the guys they've been signing. Eovaldi's the latest. And then I know some Cardinals fans, and I'm not being critical because, in fact, I've had these same thoughts, although I did some looking into it, and then I kind of disavowed those thoughts. I've changed my position on it because there's been a lot of talk. Michael Wacha had a really good year for the Red Sox, and Cardinals could use him. Get that extra pitcher. He can't cost that much. I know locally there were some people, I don't know how many, but I saw some people disappointed the Cardinals didn't sign Eovaldi. You know what? I'm not in the habit of defending the Cardinals this offseason, but my opinion only, you don't have to agree with it, is that when you have a rotation where you're depending on Steven Matz to come back after having almost the entire season wiped out by injuries, and he's got an injury history that's pretty extensive, and you're depending on Jack Flaherty to come back, and all of a sudden it's 2019 again, and all his injury problems are in the past. And you're also relying on Adam Wainwright to have a fountain of youth season when there was real deterioration in his stuff last season. And I know that it's something no one will even touch because, of course, if you do anything that is even perceived as criticism, even if it's based on facts of Adam Wainwright, someone will come and get you in the night and your loved ones will never see you again. So I get that. Why our beloved media is a little hesitant to point out the the lowest strikeout rate, the lowest swing and miss rate, the curveball not being nearly as effective as past years, and we saw it all really catch up to him in the final month. But of course, that was because a guy that is one of the smartest pitchers in baseball didn't spot the fact that his stride and his delivery was shortened. And that's why he got beat up in his final 5-6 starts, whatever it was. Yeah, a guy that can spot anything on video, probably even if he's watching it from a distance of like a mile away. But all of a sudden he couldn't spot an issue with his stride. Okay. Okay.
It is weird.
Yeah, it's real weird. Anyway. So I'm not sure to actually put a capper on my point here. I have Nate Eovaldi did nothing for me because the guy has been broken. He's been broken down way too many times. He's also lost zip on his fastball. Has lost punch on his strikeout rate. And when you have a guy that's got an injury history and these injuries are still going on, it's not like they happened 7 years ago, and you say, well, that was a long time ago. He's shown that he's over that. I don't want him. Now, if he has a great year, you can all taunt me with that. But no, I mean, if you got a bunch of medical question marks, and the Cardinals do, well, why do you want a guy with a history of injury problems? Because you got two guys for sure in your rotation that have ongoing injury problems. And so now, and you got a 42-year-old pitcher who's losing velocity and all that stuff. He's still in there. So you got three guys that at least have some questions about their viability. And then so you want to bring in one or two more? Nah. What they got to do, and Ben Fredrickson wrote about this a few weeks ago, and he was spot on. It was a good column. Bringing in the same as what you already have, especially if we're talking about guys who are frequently not pitching because their arms will not allow it to happen because their arms or their shoulders or their elbow, whatever it might be, or breaking them down. There's no wisdom in accumulating more of what you already have. What they need to do, and they're not going to do it this offseason, I don't believe, unless it's a trade, but I don't believe it even then. The only pitching I want to see the Cardinals add from a starting rotation standpoint right now is someone that would be a true number one starter. or maybe a really high-level number 2 starter, because the Cardinals have too many number 3s, 4s, and 5s. So y'all can have Eovaldi. You can have Wacha. Waka's a good dude and all that, but people, you got to look at the season he had in Boston last year. His ERA was really good. There were some good things, don't get me wrong. But he got shut down twice during the season. In fact, I think it was July. Don't hold me to that. If it wasn't July, it was definitely August, because I looked it up today.
It was July, you're right. Where
he did not pitch at all. And then later on, he had an intercostal strain, and then he had a shoulder. And then later on, he was pitching. He may have missed a start or 2 or 3, and he came back. His velocity was down. His strikeout rate was kind of low. Swing and miss stuff is down. I like Michael Wacha, but this guy has got an incredible injury history, unfortunately. It's kind of sad. And even though he got off to a really good start with the Red Sox last year, sure enough, just like he used to do with the Cardinals, unfortunately, strong starts, and then something bad happens injury-wise in the second half. So why in the world would you, seriously, why would you want to revisit that again? I don't get it. I want a number 1 starter for that rotation that's going to do something in the postseason. And I want a number 2 starter. Actually, I'd be greedy and say they need to have like 2 strong starters. And don't tell me anything about Matthew Liberatore, okay? Just shut up about that. So anyway, I just wanted to point that out. Let's stop rummaging through damaged pitchers and acting like, oh yeah, we'll have the depth. How are you going to have the depth if you're trying to replace an injured pitcher with another pitcher that gets injured all the time? How's that progress?
The sad part, because I looked at Wacha's numbers too, and I'm like you with Eovaldi. I'm like, yeah, that ship has sailed. He's well on the other side. Not that Wacha's not, but to your point, there was a stretch of baseball in May and June where you went, oh, he's not bad.
He was really good for a little while.
In fact, one of those games was against the Cardinals, and you went,
yeah,
that looks like the old Wacha. But to your point, can't dismiss what happened in July where he was not to be seen. But that's the kind of guy, Bernie, that in the back of my mind, I'm going, that screams like that's going to be the guy they're going to need come July. They're going to have to go get another one of those guys. That's the only reason why I would be semi-interested. But to your point, that doesn't make them a team where you go, well, now they're over the hump. That's just a guy to get them through that the last 2 years they've needed every time. Like, well, we got to find a guy to get us through till the end of the year. They're not going out and getting the guy who not only gets them through the end of the year, but pushes them forward through the playoffs. They got to get more swing and miss. You're 100% right. The only way they're going to get it, though, is if they start moving some of those Fabergé eggs.
Yep. Wacha, you're right. Absolutely. Wacha, for example, what do we talk about a lot on this show? We talk a lot about what the Cardinals need in terms of the style of pitchers, both starters and relievers. They have Ryan Helsley in the bullpen, more on him in a moment, who has, in fact, had the third best strikeout rate among Major League relievers last season. Really, really great stuff. But they don't have enough of those guys. And the rotation's just as bad. Matz, if he's healthy, can strike people out for you, 26, 27%. That's good. That's what he did last year in limited action. So, once again, I ask, we already know the Cardinals have a real issue. They're way behind times as far as what it takes to win in the postseason. You have to be able to strike people out. They don't. They don't have a staff like that at all, top to bottom. Michael Wacha last season, even though his ERA was fine, and even though that his season was better than it was for Tampa Bay in 2021, Michael Wacha last season for Boston had the lowest strikeout rate of his career, an average about 7.3 per 9 innings. So he's coming off his lowest strikeout performance of his career. And again, I'm not sure why you would want to add someone that you already have too many of in terms of that style. So forget about it. And he's still out there. You know what? And this is very much a related thought. because I was reading about the Texas Rangers, and apparently what they're going to do after acquiring or getting all of these pitchers. And let me get on the same page here so people know what I'm talking about. This will only take a second, and I apologize. Let me enter signing team. That would be Texas. So they brought back Martin Perez, who was really good. They signed DeGrom, who is an injury waiting to happen. They signed Andrew Haney, who's an injury waiting to happen. And they signed Nathan Eovaldi, who's an injury waiting to happen. So that's 4 guys, not Perez. That's 3 guys. And then who else? I'm trying to think who else they have in their rotation. It's easy for me to find that too. And again, I do apologize for the delay, but this is something
John Gray.
John Gray. And I needed to explain this because it sets up what I'm about to talk about. So, it's DeGrom, Perez, Gray, Eovaldi, and Haney. And 1, 2, 3, 4 of the 5 have had some serious injuries in their career. So, again, it's a little fragile, and I know they have some other guys that they could count on if they need an extra starter. But here's what I was going to talk about. You can take a chance on a Waka or a Eovaldi if you're willing to go to a 6-man rotation. If you're going to build your rotation on guys that have a history of injuries, which means you got to be really careful with them. You can't push them too much. You can't expect them to give you a big innings total. You have to be really discerning on how often you use them or how many innings you plan to get out of them. If you have a 6-man rotation, and the Rangers are, even though Bruce Bochy isn't crazy about the idea, is willing to go along with it. And Chris Young, the former Major League pitcher, who's the general manager, he's not exactly a guy that is like the the numbers nerds that all the old school baseball people make fun of. No, he was a Major League pitcher for quite a long time. He believes that they have to do that because they have to protect this rotation that's got too many injuries in the past. Well, that would make sense for the Cardinals if you're talking about expanding their rotation and making it a 6-man rotation. Then you could maybe take a flyer on Waka, understanding that, he's not going to make 30, 32 starts. You're going to plan it so he doesn't. So he's got something left. And that would apply to a lot of other pitchers too. They can't do it. I believe a guy like Marmol is smart enough to realize the benefits of it. It all depends on the kind of rotation you have set up, the people in it. Are they big innings guys? I mean, would it be helpful to space out their starts by using a 6th starter so that you don't have to, build up those so many innings? That's another reason why Wainwright runs out of gas. Because they leave him in games for too long, and it makes no sense. It's really dumb in so many ways. But this is actually connected to the 6-man rotation thing. They're not going to go with a 6-man rotation in Wainwright's final season. Just reason they've never done it before. Even though John Mozeliak told me in a column I wrote for the Post-Dispatch, obviously a very long time ago, that Mo said there's a lot of merit in going to 6-man rotation, and we're going to think about it. We're going to give it some serious thought. But they never did, and the veterans didn't like it. Well, Miklasz is going into a contract year. You think he wants to be part of a 6-man rotation and miss starts, miss assignments to build his value? Do you think Wainwright, who never, ever wanted to be part of a 6-man rotation, and it's his final year, and he's good for business, there isn't a chance in the world they're going to go with a 6-man rotation, which means fewer starts for Adam Wainwright, which would not make Adam Wainwright happy because he wants to get to number 2 all-time, most wins by a Cardinals starting pitcher. And I think he needs like 12 or so. So, again, they're all caught up in the hero stuff. And the Cardinals might be well served by a 6-man rotation. If Bruce Bochy's willing to go along with it, you sure as heck know that Ali Marmol would sign off on it, but he can't. Got to take care of Miklasz, got to take care of Waino. You don't want to offend them. You don't think Jack Flaherty, for example, would benefit from being part of a 6-man rotation? Matz? Of course they would. Wainwright, absolutely it would help him. He doesn't have to pitch as much. So I don't get it. This team is so weird in so many ways when it comes to stuff like this. I mean, what is the priority here? What's best for the team or one individual or two individual players? What are we trying to do here? What's the goal?
I think it would be a fantastic thing to at least see and let it run its course for a little while and see how it works. Because I'm like you. If I took 3 starts away from those guys and they're that much fresher down the stretch,
right?
It's not that it shouldn't be that big a deal, but it is. We still got to get past that's not how we do things. It's just
right.
It's smart. It's smart. A lot of people are just now adjusting to the new way that other things are done in the game of baseball. And it's like, oh, I see it now. I see why we're giving a guy a day off here and there. And, as a position player, and he's not playing 162 games a year. It works the same way with pitchers. And it probably would benefit pitching even more, considering you really do need more and more arms. And you got to keep more and more of them healthy. Well, how do you do that? Well, give them a few more days. Just seems so simple, but.
And let me just throw this in here too.
Mm-hmm.
For example, in 2022, Adam Wainwright, when he ventured into a game deep enough to where he would go through the other team's lineup a third time in that game,
mm-hmm.
he had a 4.38 ERA, and he allowed a 253 batting average, which was actually above league average, and an on-base percentage above the league average, and a 407 slugging percentage, which was also above league average, and also allowed 6 home runs and 12 doubles. The point being, Marmol, who 100% is smarter than this, he's had the same issue that Matheny had and what Schilt had. They just won't do anything that will risk offending Wainwright because they don't want the internal backlash.
Mm-hmm. Yep. No, I get it.
So I mean, I hate to be the bad guy here by talking about this, but it's true. And so Adam Wainwright, a year older, how is Ali Marmol going to handle situations where maybe Wainwright's pitching a pretty good game? I hope he pitches many good games. But what if you get to that third time through thing and the numbers tell you, warning, 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 warning? You going to ignore it? Like you did in 2022? Then you ain't doing your job, really. Not in terms of best servicing the entire team. That's just my opinion, and the numbers back it up.
It's okay to adjust, people. It's okay, especially when it's at best for the game.
I mean, it's not like Waino's 31 years old, man. I mean,
yeah, that's you want him to be able to pitch in a playoff game should you get in there, right? As opposed to last year, the way you were.
Yeah. So. And where he doesn't fall apart in the final month.
Yeah.
So this is a really smart organization overall, but they're outdated in their view of building a roster and the money that it takes to really compete against the best in the business. They're outdated there. And they're still hung up on the hero ball stuff to the point where they actually put the team second in their considerations about making in-game decisions. That bothers me, but again, I'm a bad person because the fact that I even mentioned this.
I can't believe you do such a thing, Bernie. I
do expect, that's why I'm going to stay in my home, but I do expect if I venture out of the home, a van will roll up and you'll never see me again because I dared scrutinize Adam Wainwright. We don't do that in this town.
The
Can't
search
do
is
it.
on for Bernie Miklasz. Anyone seen him?
Do it.
Call us now.
It's felony. Can't do it.